Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Power of Integrity. Today we have a wonderful guest in Craig Cooke, author, entrepreneur, extraordinary individual. Gosh, he'll tell you a little bit about his book, his martial arts background, even his perspective on the wonderful power of Qigong and the energy work that he does today. Craig is just a master in so many different things that for me to steal his thunder would be foolish. So, Craig, I'd love for you to tell our audience a little bit about your background. You've had a wonderful journey. And if you could kind of start wherever you like and just go ahead and tell our audience a little bit about what you've been up to in this life of yours, which has been certainly a phenomenal, phenomenal journey.
Sure, will do. Thank you, Ralph, for those kind words. I truly appreciate that. And yeah, so just to share the quick background of my story, I founded a digital first company in the 20th century. I like to say in 1996, doing digital transformation work. Actually, way before those buzzwords ever existed. It was a digital marketing agency focused on marketing independent music online. An idea before its time. There was only 30 million people online at the time worldwide, and people were afraid to buy things on their credit card, and there was no broadband, no MP3s or anything like that, and it was a challenge. And I started the company with just $1,300 and a computer and a couple friends from college, and just really had to struggle to build the company kind of more in an old fashioned sense because we didn't have any funding or anything like that. But long story short, there grew the business over the years and eventually sold it in 2019 to a world class digital creative agency, which was like the pinnacle of our success. And there's all kinds of great peaks of performance and success along the way, like being on the Inc. 5000 list 5 years in a row, best places to work 4 years in a
Wow.
row. Yeah, just good stuff, a good journey. And but the pinnacle was the exit, and then I stayed on for 3 years as CEO in my existing role, and then in 2022, I determined it was time to leave and change and start a new chapter in life, and took a little bit of time off as I just completed 26 years, and I equate each year to a mile. So I ran that marathon, as I like to say, and needed a little rest. So took the rest of the year off, and then 2023, I really started defining what the next chapter was going to look like, and defined that. Started doing some consulting work, just naturally based on my expertise and experience. So that was just a natural transition. And then I released my book, as you mentioned, Business Kung Fu, late last year. And it's available on Amazon. I've actually won a couple of awards for it recently. And it's on the bestseller list at Amazon, and doing a lot of sharing of information on that. It's a mindset book, essentially at its core for entrepreneurs and business professionals, and looking to getting into some speaking and so forth. And then also, as you mentioned, Qigong is a huge part of my life, and perhaps we'll get into that as well. And I just actually, I'm happy to share that I graduated from my doctorate program last Sunday. So I am now a doctor of Chinese
Oh,
immersion.
congratulations. I didn't even know of that. And those awards
Yeah,
that the book has been given, fantastic.
thank
You,
you.
I don't know, Craig, if you was there more you wanted to share in that journey before I launched into asking a couple questions about the book and a couple other things?
Well, the journey of an entrepreneur is one filled with all kinds of highs and lows. Anyone out there that's listening that happens to be considering going into business for themselves, it's a great path for empowerment and self reliance. And I know we're going to be talking a lot about integrity. Integrity plays a crucial role in the long term sustainability. So I'm really happy to get into it with you.
Yes, integrity, oftentimes the synonyms are transparency, honesty. Just this morning, one of the other guests I was visiting with, he had applied the word consistency.
Mhm.
And what you just used momentarily ago was another word, right?
Yeah, sustainability.
That Right. It's how can you sustain without, like, the house of cards will collapse under its own weight, lacking the integral structure or integral structure that's necessary. And integrity, while it's a concept and a principle, it certainly could be applied to the integrated and integral structure being sufficient to hold the weight under which it's levied. So really interesting. These conversations are getting so interesting that I'm having with folks like yourself because the people behind the conversations are interesting. And you wrote a book, Business Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Tell us about that book, its principles. It's a mindset book, yes, but what are the principles in that book? And I'm sure they lace up pretty closely to having integrity as one of them.
Absolutely. So the concept behind business kung fu is really how I took my studies and principles of what I learned from studying Chinese kung fu when I was younger and how I applied it to running my company. It's the way of thinking, my approach, discipline was huge in that respect, and also just even in chapter one, I talk about building a foundation, and it's essential for anything that you do in life, whether it's a business, studying martial arts, any sort of endeavor, right? So chapter one is all about building that foundation, and I actually have a model in there called Five Elements of Success, and it's been resonating with a lot of people, and it's based on Chinese five element theory, which that theory applies to various aspects in life, whether it's martial arts, but also food, spiritual systems, medical systems, so forth. Um, as a quick overview, the five elements in classic Chinese five element theory are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. So there's these cycles of how these elements operate and function in relationships between each other. And it's all about balance at the end of the day. And so I've taken that model and created a framework for success and using based on my personal experience of success and failures, and also my observation of others, their success and failures. I identified five elements, which starts with passion, which leads to discipline, which leads to expertise, which leads to confidence, which leads to faith. And it's a cycle. You can actually start it anywhere in the cycle, but that's where I like to explain
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes. What an interesting approach. And, the word discipline on those five jumped out twice for me, because absent a discipline, it's tough to keep your integrity, right? Or to have integrity, you better be disciplined about it because you can't do it once in a while, right? This is one of those concepts of discipline. You can't do it once in a while. You can't do integrity once in a while. We've got to do it all the time. And I'm curious, because you were a business leader, how did integrity influence, you think, the performance of your team, and how did it play a role in the company, when you think about integrity conceptually?
It was huge. Actually, it was a part of our brand culture. It was actually a word that was utilized and defined in our official brand documents, which, you have a lot of companies out there that speak about integrity and they use that, but it's really about walking the talk. And there was various moments in time where you're tested and you have to really demonstrate that you do have integrity. And when you do that, it really has an impact on the people that are following you, that you're leading as a team to succeed. And when that integrity is shines, I like to say it's like the light of truth. That's integrity. People are inspired and motivated.
You just left us with another jewel, the light of truth. How powerful is that? For those that are listening, that's one of those note taking opportunities to remember the light of truth. Let it shine on our integrity and let us be disciplined about it each day. When you think about it, integrity, not just in business, how has it played a role in your own personal journey?
It's been huge. The business was a reflection of myself. And yeah, there's the brand of the business and the various team members that comprised of the leadership. But I definitely had a huge aspect of input in defining what that was. And it was really a reflection of myself as an individual and how I operate. And integrity for me, it's that walking in that light of truth and being disciplined and delivering on what you say you're going to do. And we're all human and we make mistakes. And when those mistakes occur, are you accountable? Do you make it right? So all that comes into play in integrity from an individual standpoint, in my opinion.
Yes. And making it right. There was a book, in fact, that this book was probably the single book that prompted me for writing or titling the book I was going to write some years later. It was called Integrity Works.
Mm.
Um, and that's where the book was born, Integrity at Work for me. But Integrity Works was really a study of business cases and instances, primarily the Tylenol issue with Johnson and Johnson, and how they took it off the shelf, costing them millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, I think, and doing the right thing in the face of being able to potentially not do the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
and how integrity worked for them in the long run and didn't destroy that brand completely. But it does. But, speaking about, destructive things, there must have been some place, even though we surround ourselves less and less with folks who lack integrity or who don't bring integrity to the table, along the path and that journey, professionally or personally, is there a time when you remember the reverse happening where someone did not bring integrity to the equation and the consequences went awry? What comes to mind?
Yeah, one example that comes to mind was, as you're in business, you get to know people in your industry, and whether they're strategic alliance partners or competitors, or combination of the two. Strangely enough, um, there was this one organization that was similar to ours locally, and one of their customers came to me one day and told me about some grievances they had and how there was an extreme lack of accountability. And I was really surprised. I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." I was actually shocked to hear about it, because I had no idea that that's how they would handle that type of situation and not make it right with the customer. And then I continued to hear anecdotal stories from various people over the years about all kinds of lack of integrity, where situations that were compromised, and they just were not able to keep clients. I just kind of casually observed their operations over the years, because we wouldn't really compete with them much, but they were similar to us. So it's just interesting to observe another local company, and they're not in business today. Now, my company that I left, a couple years back, is now in its 28th year of operation. Integrity leads to sustainability. And when you don't live with integrity, if your brand doesn't operate with integrity, eventually clients leave. And what good is that? It's funny, like that Tylenol example you gave earlier. I remember that, and it's huge when it's all about just making a situation right. And that's just one example that I observed where you just see what happens when integrity isn't really held.
Yeah. So it kind of dovetails right with it. Maybe for those that are wondering about this application of integrity, uh, and is it profitable for them to have integrity even when it's taking
Mm.
some things back or correcting something at our own expense? Can you share where you see integrity creating customer and client loyalty, and maybe give an example of how you've seen that happen?
Absolutely. So there's one example that comes to mind. So way back in, I want to say this is probably around 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. That period, we had this one client that we had created this like strategic alliance partnership with. They would go out, and they were well connected, and they were able to meet with really large Fortune 500 companies, and they would private label our work essentially, right? And we were doing a lot of CD-ROM development at the time. These beautiful desktop applications delivered via CD-ROM. That was way back in the day when CD-ROMs were actually kind of cool. So we had this one project for a large national bank. And, we've been working with these guys for probably about 5 years or so, and they're like our top client and bringing us all these great opportunities. And well, this particular project, unfortunately, towards the end of the project, it became a rush job, which was, I never liked those rush jobs, because when people rush, there's always something that goes wrong. It's just so difficult to avoid. Well, anyways, the project went out. It was like 100,000 units of CD-ROMs that were shipped out. And all of a sudden get a call like the next day. Hey, these aren't working. What do you mean they're not working? Well, once you get about 7 minutes in, it gets stuck. And I'm like, oh, all right, let me call you back. So I look and I check, and sure enough, there was a bug. And because it was a rush job, we didn't catch it. And, I talked to one of my employees at the time, and we looked at it, and he's like, oh yeah, this is what happened. I was like, oh my gosh. It was just one of those things. It was a mistake. And yeah, he contributed to it, but so did I, because it was a rush job, and I, allowed that to happen. I was responsible also. And that was a big moment of decision right there, because it was costly. Do I eat $50,000, which at that time, I don't know what that'd be in today's dollars, maybe $150,000. I don't know, with the way inflation is,
easily.
right? So, and being a small business, it's like, wow, this is going to be a huge hit. And just thinking about it for a couple minutes, it didn't take too long. It's just because of the integrity and just, the way it was just natural to operate in that way. It was like, all right. I called them back. Yeah, you're right. It's not right.
Ouch.
And we're going to fix it. And we'll pick up those CDs, and we'll send out new ones. So we actually had to pay the cost of getting all those CDs, ROMs, 100,000 units shipped back, create a new 100,000 units, have them repackaged and sent out. And it was at least a $50,000 hit. But when our direct client that was bringing us all these companies, all these great opportunities, the fact that I called them back and said, yeah, that's it, and we're going to take care of it, without any sort of argument whatsoever, they're like, okay, that's great. Excellent. Thank you. And we continued to do work with them for at least another 7 years. They eventually sold their company, and we just kept doing bigger and bigger projects. And they were, our top client for many years, actually. And they were a huge contributor to the early days of our success. And if I would have made the wrong decision and just said, you know what, guys, you allowed this rush stuff, blah, 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 and got into a big argument and a big blow up, like that wouldn't have done any good for the long-term success of both of us. It needed to be win-win. And that's integrity.
Yeah. Playing the long ball creates that customer client loyalty by doing the right thing in the moment.
Yeah.
When you think about it, a personal relationship, can you remember a time when integrity was tested for you, and how you've responded to that?
Personal relationships. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I know
Maybe it happened in a business environment, but with an individual.
Yeah, there was another client that just this one situation just popped into my mind. This was a good one. This was a really good one, actually. So there's a client that was our largest client for a number of years. Not the same one. This is a different one. And this is probably around, I want to say this is probably around year 2015 or so. We've been doing work with this client for a few years, several years probably. And there's a project that we did not win with them because they do a lot of RFPs. And they called us in about maybe 8 months later because their project was going south, and they wanted us to bid on fixing it, essentially. So, okay, we're going to go in there and we're going to talk to them. And we're having the meeting. It's the pitch presentation. Myself and my team members are in there, and we're talking about what we're going to do, how we'll fix things in the timeline. And this one gentleman says, "Well, that timeline's too long. We need it done by April." And I think we were like in February or something like that. And I looked at him. I said, "I'm sorry, we can't do that. That's not possible. It's not going to happen." And he got really upset. He's like, "No, we need it by April. It's just it has to be done that way." And I'm like, "Listen, I can tell you what you want to hear, and other companies that come in here are going to tell you what you want to hear, but I'm telling you that it's not going to happen. It just can't. There's too much to do. The timeline we're giving you is the realistic timeline." And he wasn't happy at all and didn't take it well at all. It was like a group of probably 12 people that we were presenting to. And it was interesting because we didn't get the project, however, this was the results. One, my team was really happy about that position. They had so much respect.
You holding your line,
That I
right?
held the line, and I didn't put them in
Yep.
an impossible situation that was going to be highly stressful and a train wreck, leading to failure. So there was that benefit of how much respect and camaraderie that was built from that. And then down the road, sure enough, when the vendor that they gave that project to did not deliver on time, and then the deadline that we gave them, they did not deliver on that timeline. And it was months and months behind that. And they eventually called us back again to fix stuff. And then my client, one of my main contacts, not the gentleman that got so upset, but he had told me, like, yeah. And even before we even got to work on the project again, but maybe like a few weeks after that initial meeting, he had called me and said, "I really respect that. That thank you for being honest and direct and not telling us something that we just wanted to hear. Totally respect you for that." And they were a client that, I mean, I believe they're still a client of the company, but at least 10 years of just fantastic client work. Them and one other company were our biggest clients for a long time, and just did a ton of business. And that was the moment where I could have just blown it and said, "Oh yeah, we could do it," and then failure, and then lost them as a client.
You were vindicated by holding the
Yeah.
line, keeping to your word,
Mhm.
and knowing that you can deliver with integrity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Just telling them the truth, it's just that light of truth, right? Like,
That'll set you free.
that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yes, the light of truth. So, Craig, what else will folks call from your book, Business Kung Fu? What other things would you leave them with as we have a few more moments to talk about the power of integrity?
Sure. Sure. Well, the book goes into, there's all these analogies of my martial arts training and how it applied to business. Um, there's a whole bunch of things. So in relation to integrity, what integrity, walking in truth, and a big aspect to that is taking care of yourself. And I have a saying in my book: be of service to self so you can be of service to others for a lifetime. And the reason why I say that is because I learned a very hard lesson that where in being of service to others and always putting other people first, it had a dramatic impact on my health. And so I really wasn't having that integrity with myself in the long run. And from a sustainability standpoint, I was compromising myself. I wasn't taking care of myself, having that integrity with myself, even though it was for
Yeah.
good intentions. Yeah, there was a result where I eventually was diagnosed with diabetes. And
Ooh.
yeah, when I started the company, I was in great shape, and then 10 years later, other end of the spectrum. Well, then getting this diagnosis, it all started to make sense. Oh, this is why I'm tired. I have brain fog. This is why I crash. at night on the couch for 2 hours after eating, and I just wasn't able to perform like I was always able to. And what
Yes.
good is that? The sustainability wasn't there. I lost it. So I set out on a journey to correct that, and qigong was a big part of that. And then all other types of initiatives that I took upon, like strength training and proper diet and sleep and walking and all these things, right? And I eventually, I've reversed that condition 100% naturally without any medication whatsoever. And now I feel like I did in my 20s, and I have enough energy to be of service to others for a lifetime. So I think that's important to have that
That's
integrity with yourself. So, be of service to self so you can be of service to others for a lifetime.
tremendous insight. Absolutely tremendous insight. And many that business owners, entrepreneurs, especially those in the startup phase, get seduced into, we got to do everything
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
I was telling one of our other guests, the entrepreneur is the only person willing to work 80 hours a week so they don't have to put in a 40-hour work week.
That's right.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. That never gets old, does it?
Mhm.
Yes. And then we put 80 hours in and then we wonder why our health is suffering because we're not doing the things we need to do
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
Well, kind of in closing, Craig, our young entrepreneurs that hopefully are tuning in and listening in, when you think about it, can you share the lessons and the application of the lessons of integrity and how you might tell our young entrepreneurs how to apply it and how to see it and see it through to completion when they're applying integrity so that they know it was worth the journey, because not always does integrity pay off
Mhm.
immediately. It's not an instant gratification tool. Maybe you can share with our young entrepreneurs how they might apply it and why they might apply it.
Sure, sure. And I think you brought something up that's really important, that instant gratification, the society that we live today with all these conveniences and the immediacy of media, especially social media, all this instant gratification that is at our fingertips. It's hard to have a proper mindset that, hey, there's a bigger long-term picture here. So I would say to
Yes.
really, shape your mind to have that long-term big picture view. It's super important, and to walk with integrity is critical to business success, because at the end of the day, people are compensating you for you to provide them value. And if that value is compromised in some sort of manner, it has to be corrected and made right. Otherwise, the even if you have some short-term immediate success, if there's value is compromised, that success is going to dwindle, and it will dwindle fast. Just like you can rise fast, you can fall very fast, and I've seen it. So really, walking the talk, doing what you say you're going to do. And again, we're all human, we all make mistakes. I've made a ton. It's just make it right. Just be accountable and make it right, and it will take you so far for the long term.
Yeah, I had a business coach that said these four practical things of wisdom. He said, if you want to be ahead of 95% of the pack, show up on time, say please and thank you, do what you say you're going to do, and finish what you start.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? And that do what you say you're going to do and finishing what you start. And because not every time is somebody watching you and holding you accountable to things that you start. Think about all the books that we open and never finish. Think about all the papers we start and never complete. Think about all the projects we open and never close. And that breeds a lack or can tear at the fabric of integrity when no one else is looking. Are we doing the things through to completion, which is interesting.
100%. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And I equate that to earlier how you picked up on how discipline is a part of integrity too. It allows it to happen. And the way I define discipline in my book, if I may, real quick, is
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have time.
is and it falls right in line with what you're saying. One, the first level is showing up. You got to show up every day. And it's funny because it's so simple, but not everyone shows up every day. It's interesting, right? Okay. And then once
Right?
you show up, okay, well, you have to be productive. because when, some people are showing up, but they're really not getting to work. They're just kind of kicking it, hanging out,
Yeah.
talking, blabbing, like not getting work done. They're not productive. And then the
Yeah.
third level is being effective, because sometimes when people are showing up and being productive, but they're just kind of noodling and being busy, but are they really creating value? And that's what I mean by being effective, is that where you actually create value in the marketplace, that someone would be willing to pay their hard-earned money for what you have to offer. So those three levels of discipline are essential to walking in integrity. It's just another way of kind of stating what you said.
Yes. Show up on time, ready to go to work.
Yeah. It's pretty simple,
Yes.
but yet challenging for many.
That's why the 5% club is pretty narrow, right?
Yeah.
Pretty narrow. The other 19 out of 20 folks that aren't doing it with the discipline and with the integrity, that's what, comes back to haunt them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But more and more, hopefully with the word getting out, the power of integrity, people are understanding how to put it to work. You've been a great guest helping share insights and powerful pearls of wisdom, and the light of truth will echo long after our recording today. Tell me something. If folks want to get in touch with you, Craig, of course, to buy your book, Kung Fu, Business Kung Fu, they'll get it on Amazon, probably other retailers if they Google it. But if they want to get in touch with you, whether it has to do with the Qigong work you're doing or anything else, how do they get in touch with you?
Sure. So LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn /Craig Cooke with the E at the end, Cook. If you just search for me, I pop up all over the place. So that I monitor that daily. So that's a great way to get a hold of me. Also, my website, which is c2pro.io. So that's the letter C and then squaredpro.io. There's a form on there. I don't list my email just to keep all the spam from mitigating that because of all the scrapers out there.
Yes.
But people fill out the form. It comes to me. I monitor that all the time. It's a great way to get a hold of me. As you mentioned, my book is available on Amazon. If you just do a Google search for it, it just pops up. And I'll have it available on Barnes & Noble probably pretty soon. But right now it's on Amazon. But LinkedIn and my website are the best ways to get in touch with me.
Well, having Craig Cooke, a bestseller on Amazon, Business Kung Fu, Discipline, The Light of Truth, and all the powerful wisdom that you shared with us today. It was wonderful spending this time with you, Craig. I truly appreciate you coming on the show and helping our audience understand the application in true life, regular, everyday folks applying integrity throughout their journey. It's always been a pleasure to visit with you. I'm grateful for you. I thank you very much and look forward to speaking with you again real soon. Take good care, my friend, and bye for now.
Thank you so much, Ralph. Bye for now.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc.